Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here, trying out my new mic. I still can't find my phone, so maybe this will be a blessing in disguise where I can actually teach myself how to use this mic, how to use GarageBand and iMovie to be slightly more professional. I don't think the iPhone videos of comic books are going away because I love the physicality of holding a comic book in my hands. It sometimes helps me think through some of the things I want to say, but who knows? Maybe I'll finally approach a non-embarrassing level of quality for this channel. So today I want to tell you a true story about a postmodern feminist work of performance art I once watched and why I think about it so much and how it's significant for me. The impetus was I was flipping through my art magazines thinking about politics in the art and social justice in comics, and then I remembered this artwork from a few years ago. So the problem is that I do not remember the name of the artist who made this or the title of the work or even the museum it was shown in. Most likely it might have been the Louvre's contemporary collection of video art, but I'm not even sure about that. It could even have been Germany. So I've got zero leads on how to find this again. The reason why is when I first saw it, I was not that impressed. I was somewhat annoyed, so I just walked away and thought I'd just forget about it. But then years passed and I keep thinking about this postmodern work of feminist art, and this is one of the few such works that I can look back on and remember what it was about and actually say I'm glad I saw it because it helped me think through some things and it actually had a positive impact on my life, and I'm not doing a bit. So if there are any feminist performance art experts out there and you know what the heck I'm talking about, please let me know because I'd love to actually find out what this video is and see it again. So the basic gist of it is I think a French performance artist who may have been speaking in French is playing the part of multiple types of arts professionals, and she's making fun of them. So she plays the part of an abstract painter, and it's, whoops, there goes my, we're still not professional, guys. I've still got my printer making noises in the background. The mic cannot lie. I am still the least professional channel involving the love of Marmaduke on YouTube. Anyway, so the woman doing the project is, she'll play the part of an abstract painter, and the idea is he's supposed to be sexist. It's supposed to be making fun of sexism and misogyny in the art world. And then she'll play kind of a drunk artist curator. And even I think the description of the artwork said it was intended to mock misogyny and patriarchy in the art world. And every time she changed character, she would remove an article of clothing. So eventually she's down to her underwear and then she's naked. But then something happens which radically changes the tone of the whole piece. The actress started crying and started talking about how when she was young, she had a love for making things, and that over time, that was lost. And I think the reason this is stuck in my mind for years is I sincerely believe that that was not her doing a bit or playing a part. If she was playing a part, she's an incredibly talented actress. But I believe that was a moment where the artist was letting something slip about herself, that in her youth she had desired to create works of art. And then over time, during her time in the art world and in art academia, she had lost touch with this part of herself. And it was very sad because here she is as a widely recognized performance artist in some significant museum, at least, and is breaking down into tears over how she has stopped creating art. And this is stuck in my mind for years because I think I had the experience of, going to art school, having to take the 20th century art class, doing an assignment where you'd create a work of performance art or create a work of video art, or they'd ask you to look at some feminist artists and create work inspired by feminist artists. And I almost took the blue pill. I was challenged enough by my professors that I thought, well, maybe my red state upbringing didn't really prepare me for this. Maybe all my peers in this progressive art school, they all have a point. Maybe I should become a progressive, but I didn't quite take the blue pill. I sipped the Kool-Aid a little bit. I noticed the grape flavor, noticed a little tang of that cyanide in there, and I didn't down it. So, and that artwork, that postmodern feminist artwork was actually helpful for me realizing that, because I had experimented with sort of postmodern works of art. And it was fun because it's experimental. You have an idea pop in your head, and you say, "Oh, let's try that," and you do something kind of crazy and kind of fun and kind of cool. It appeals to the id. You think, "What if I did it?" And then you go do it. But seeing a successful artist essentially bemoaning the fact that she wanted to create and had lost touch with this, that sort of served as a caution to me that even if I did succeed as a postmodern artist, selling millions to make ridiculous works of art, lightning would have to strike for that to be you, but that wouldn't be any guarantee that you're happy or proud of what you did. So I moved past my little experimental weird phase in art school and started focusing on what I was really passionate about, which was drawing, art, and comics. I found direction by viewing this contemporary work of performance art at a major museum. So I still want to know what it is, if that rings a bell for any art history buffs out there who are more thorough in their knowledge of feminist performance art than I am. This is connecting with me to Comicsgate, as usual. I find some way to connect it with SJW Marvel or something. But the connection I want to make is that the problem of social justice warriorism, not just social justice, but sort of the warrioristic mentality, the echo chamber mentality, that's a lot older than the past couple of years. That's older than weird things you've been seeing in comic books recently. That's older than Gamergate. It is a very old philosophical movement, and in the 80s, at least, from what I've read, feminists often saw themselves as the underdogs in academia. Now, this could be because feminists were telling their own story, and it's fun to portray yourself as the underdog. But I do think it's recent where feminism has essentially been able to become a dominant force in the American academy. And I think this explains a big part of the social justice in comics conversation that's going on, is where do these people come from? Why do they have these ideas? Why do they think the way they think? And I think the obvious answer is because of their schooling, because of their training. And one reason I think that is I experienced it myself, and I almost drank the social justice Kool-Aid, where lots of people are going into art school hoping to draw because they love to draw, because they love to make things and build things and sculpt. And then they find during their time in art school that it's actually much more about philosophy and, frankly, Marxism, Frankfurt School of Thought types of Marxist essays, Judith Butler, semiotics, all this sort of weird postmodern theory that you read and write essays about. And I think for a lot of people that ends up taking priority over their desire to create works of art, to create objects, and it ends up informing their worldview, because the contemporary generally, that's my problem, is I have had experiences in two different types of environments. One environment had a very traditional conservative approach to learning about art, with an emphasis on the fundamental skills necessary to succeed as an artist, with a little bit of art history and a little bit of theory, so you weren't completely naive to what was going on in the art world. And there were advocates of abstract art and postmodern art in that traditional environment, but generally the atmosphere was an emphasis on learning how to draw and learning how to paint. And then I've also had experience in an educational environment with heavy emphasis on postmodern art theory and history, where essentially all the works of art you would create for class would be what Christina Hoff Sommers, the factual feminist, would call personal poetry, where you're confessional poetry, where you're confessing something about your personal opinions or history. And as long as it's personal and has something to do with progressive politics, you can get an A in the progressive art class. This connects with something I've somewhat been melancholy about my art experience was for a lot of my time in art school, I was playing the part of the centrist. I was afraid to out myself as a traditional conservative or a traditional Christian because I'd overhear conversations where people would joke about wanting to punch Republicans or punch NRA members or punch pro-lifers who they saw, protesting outside the school. And that caused me to be very afraid and very trepidatious, where if I raised any kind of objections in classroom discussions, I'd usually try to couch it in very secretive language. So I wouldn't say, here's what I'd think. I'd say, well, what if someone made this argument against this feminist work of political art? And that's part of what's been really very cathartic for this channel about me, is actually finally getting to say some of the things I've thought out loud, but have been scared of saying because I sensed that I was in the minority, and if I expressed my thoughts, I might receive, penalization in my grade or penalization at the student life center or whatever. So I guess I'm rambling now, but the point is that I think the art schools themselves have helped create the generation of artists that have given us SJW Marvel Comics. And this is something that people need to focus on and think about and research about and read about, because the goofy squirrel girl drawings are a symptom of something. The SJW Marvel isn't the disease, it's a symptom of a bigger problem. The bigger problem is the history of social justice and the history of, I'll call it third wave or radical feminism. I'm not an expert in feminism. I can't comment on whether this is true of first wave feminism or second wave feminism, but generally I'd agree with Christina Hoff Sommers that campus feminism of the 21st century is particularly anti-rational, particularly has a problem with closing down discussions and debates. And I want to investigate the history of feminism to the point where I can have a very informed opinion about it, and I can make connections to how the heck social justice became the predominant viewpoint in Marvel Comics, which I see as the mainstream comic book company, even more so than DC, even though I love DC. So that's helped me find a focus, I think, where I'm interested in art history, I'm interested in philosophy, I'm interested in comics. But the thing I think I can contribute to this ongoing conversation is a serious investigation of feminism and social justice as related to art, and try to show the roots that would eventually lead to the current conversation we're having about politics and comics, and what goes into a good comic, what role should politics have in good storytelling and good comic art, and all of that. I'm getting down to the foundational roots that led to this debate happening in the first place. So that's all I want to say. Don't want to repeat myself. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. Tell me what you think of the microphone that I'm using. Is it improved or even worse than my cell phone? Hopefully I'll find my cell phone soon and get back to some dank memes and bleep posting with you guys. I love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch me on Twitter @NO1 Marmaduke fan. See you later, guys.